answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
For years, the Democrats screamed collusion falsely about Donald Trump and Russia. And as you say, there was collusion. Collusion between Obama and Biden and Clinton, Brennan, Comey, Clapper, to brush under the rug the judgments of these career intelligence officials that there's no evidence of collusion whatsoever.
And here's the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, here at the White House Wednesday.
The House Intelligence Committee oversight report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the President Obama. Production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the President and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan.
Oh my, how the Democrats want this to just go away. Just forget it. Let's move on. That was then. This is now. They want no accountability. They want no thumbprints, much less palm prints, all over the so-called Russian collusion story. They just want their hands around Donald Trump's neck. We got a lot to break down because every time you think you got yourself up to speed on what's happening with the information that was withheld by the Obama administration and withheld for political purposes to damage Donald Trump and his followers, more leaks spring. They cannot contain all of it, and they're not going to be able to. And we're going to break down a lot of it for you. Welcome to hour number one. Larry Connors USA. Welcome to our Monday, July 28, 2025. And reminding you when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Very easy. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And everything later goes up as a podcast. And that's available for you at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, and Larry Connors USA Facebook. Let me take a quick moment to remind you of something coming up in September. Larry, it's just July. I know, but this thing is filling up rapidly. If you want to be part of it, you need to act today, to be direct. We're talking about NewsTalkSTL and the Hammond Center for Free Enterprise, bringing Steve Forbes to Lindenwood University September the 18th, along with the help of the Young America's Foundation and West Mid Rivers News Magazine. September the 18th at 7 p.m. on the Lindenburg campus. You want to get in? You'll need a ticket. How much will it cost you? Not a dime. But you do have to register to get the tickets. You will need a ticket to get in because at some point we'll have to say we cannot exceed capacity. You go to NewsTalkSTL.com, click on the link, and you'll get your tickets. NewsTalkSTL.com, get your tickets for meeting with Steve Forbes, chair and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media, September the 18th. With Larry Connors USA, of course, you're always going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You will leave this hour with more information than you had as we began. I promise you. And let me give you a clue of what's coming up later in the second hour. The largest abortion center in the Western Hemisphere is closing. We'll have details of that for you. And later this hour, John LeBoutillier, former New York Congressman, never Trumper, Reaganite. Many have said, listening to John lately, I think he's mellowing. I said, well, I think we're getting to some pieces that we can agree with. But yeah, often there's a little back and forth between John and me on some of the subjects. But I want him on board today to get his view on all this stuff that was done by the Obama and then the Biden administration and all of their lackeys to destroy our government, to carry out a coup against President Trump. And I want to remind you again, none of this we would have known. We would have known none of it if Trump had not been elected the first time and then a second time. They would have gotten away with it. That, my friend, is very scary. Let's take a look at it from John Ratcliffe, who is now overseeing one of our federal agencies investigating, as he lays out how it started from the beginning.
During that 4-year period of time, think about the countless interviews that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan gave to the public, and testimony that they gave under oath about how Russia was involved in our election. And not one time, not a single time, did they ever reference what became verified intelligence, a Hillary Clinton plan. Verified, Maria, because in 2020, Hillary Clinton's own campaign manager took the oath under penalty of perjury in the trial of Michael Sussman and was asked about this plan and said, yes, there was a plan, and Hillary Clinton personally approved it. So all they did was talk about the fake Steele dossier, but never talked about the true intelligence, the true origins of the Russia collusion hoax, was that this was a Hillary Clinton campaign scheme.
Yeah, that's what it was. Ratcliffe was a congressman on the Intel Committee investigating some of this, along with, quote, Adam Schiff, because they had control of the House at that point. Ratcliffe now is the director of the CIA. He's got all of those files in his hand. So what he says, they should be listening. And in fact, I'm sure they are, but they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear it. And Jonathan Turley, legal analyst for Fox News, says, let's go back to the beginning.
It was earlier in 2016 that John Brennan briefed President Obama to say that Hillary Clinton was planning to hit Trump with a Russian collusion conspiracy theory. So he knew that. So did Obama. And then at the end of the term, right before Trump comes in, they rushed this new assessment, which essentially flipped the earlier assessment and seeded the basis for the Russian investigation. And it worked. But now you've great vulnerability for people like Brennan. What we learned last week does not seem to conform with what he said to Congress. And that's going to raise serious issues if he's called back before Congress, and they're going to ask him the same questions.
They are. And will he answer it differently, or will he take the fifth? Now, he's already on record. He is on record under oath of what he gave for a first answer. You can always take the fifth, but again, your prior testimony is already recorded. And we had a question about statute of limitations on some of this. Well, according to Jonathan Turley and others I've heard from, there may not be a statute of limitations because it's just a recurring crime over and over again. And now we got more information being dropped. The Federalist has been doing a great job. Margot Cleveland we had on the other day. She says there's some details buried in recently declassified docs that further implicate Obama in all of this. This we knew, but it just gets more detail. The HPSCI report provides and proves indispensable for understanding what supposed intel Obama withheld from the intel community under the guise of, hey guys, you can't touch that. That's executive privilege. You can't have that. Well, all of this now is opened up like a can of worms. And once again, CIA Director Ratcliffe says the FBI has also got their hands all over this.
Part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. John Brennan testified to John Durham in August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate Committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is, frankly, completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects.
And you know what? Dan Bongino, of course, is on the inside now. And Bongino is Deputy Director to Kash Patel with the FBI. He's been very cryptic on some remarks he's put on Twitter, understandably so, because the case is under investigation, and he is now on the inside. One of the remarks he posted, we cannot run a republic like this, stating, I have things and seen things that are shocking. He said, well, we're going to uncover the truth related to corruption and politicalization. Again, Dan saying, we're going to pursue, quote, righteous, proper investigations by the book to get the answers we all deserve. But the fact that he says, what I've seen so far is shocking. Well, there are more alarm bells going off everywhere. Wonder what it's like out on Martha's Vineyard in the Obama house at this hour. If they're listening to Larry Connors USA, and they might well be, it just got a little hotter in the kitchen. One of the largest military exercises in history is currently underway. This is taking place in the Indo-Pacific. 19 nations, including India.
Remaining vigilant and prepared for war. The largest bilateral military exercise ever conducted between the United States and Australia, Operation Talisman Sabre, is now underway down under. The goal of the 35,000 participants from 19 nations is to uphold a free and open Indo-Pacific. Some observers view the exercise as a response to the Chinese naval buildup and aggression in the South China Sea.
And that's obviously a part of it, because we're trying to show the wealth and the force we have, and especially when we're all joined together. But this is not to get ready. This is not a battle formation at this point. It serves more as a deterrent, hopefully. Retired Marine Colonel Dunn.
We're not doing this to prepare just for war, right? We're doing this to prepare for deterrence, to prepare for peace, as well as to prepare for operating with our other teammates, our allies, in a multi-nation operation / exercise. We do these exercises routinely, not on this scale. And the reason why we do them is simply to bring all of these forces together so that we learn and we train and we operate just like we are if we go to war. It should be seen more as in my mind, right, I'm hopeful, as a precursor to peace, because when our adversaries see how easily we bring together all these nations, this many folks, and we operate in a extended exercise, they should see that we could quickly transmit that into combat if necessary.
And that is very important, because we want them to know we can activate on a dime. And we have coordinations already preset. Now, once you get into it, it's kind of like, you know, if everybody has a plan, until you get smacked in the mouth, then that plan goes south. But if you're ready, you've got not only the plan in place, but you got backup plans ready to go. This is the kind of training our forces, along with other forces, are being involved, are taking part in. And again, I mentioned India being one of them, and Australia. They're all coming together in this Indo-Chinese war I should say preparations. I want to stress again, let me take back the word war. I meant preparations. And one group that is watching in particular would be China, because they're concerned about Taiwan, if they ever decide to move into Taiwan. You know, we got more trade deals done over the weekend. I say we, Trump on behalf of America. Got one with the UK, got that settled out. Got one with the European Union. Didn't think that could be happening, but it is. Still don't have one with China. China wants to delay and have a little bit more time to work on it. And Gordon Chain says there's a reason China wants the delay, and that's to stall, obviously. But there's an advantage we could take in this case.
In this particular case, an extension might help us. And the reason is, as we extend this trade deadline with China, we're stitching up trade deals with the rest of the world. In other words, we're tying the world to us. This EU deal is so critically important because China couldn't get an EU trade deal. So really what we're having right now is the Chinese, which normally like to stall, I think stalling might not be in their interest. So this is good news for the United States. And by the way, Cheryl, this $750 billion buy of U.S. energy is really good because it means that Europe is being weaned off of Russian gas. It'll buy U.S. gas, and that means less money for Vladimir Putin to prosecute his war in Ukraine.
So all of this is playing out actually to our benefit, for the world's benefit. China gets another little extension, but here's what's happening behind the curtain. President Trump has said he's giving Russia a new deadline. It was originally at 50 days at this point to make a ceasefire with Ukraine. The president now says, Russia, you have a new deadline, 10 to 12 days to reach an agreement with Ukraine. Russia can't help but see how we're sucking up people all around them and nations in trade deals. The very fact that we have this deal with the European Union, $750 billion worth of fuel coming from the U.S. going to the European Union, that takes a lot of money out of Russia. I think they'll be reconsidering. Coming up, the man many of you do not like, but he's very engaging, John LeBoutillier. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code. And how do you get the code to the Speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. One of my favorite guests on board for you, John LeBoutillier, former New York Congressman, author of the book Harvard Hates America, Reaganite, a never Trumper. And sometimes we have issues where we come to odds, and other times we're in more agreement. John, welcome aboard, sir.
Good morning, Larry. And more often than not, we get along quite well.
Yes, we do, as well as on the air and off the air. And you know what? I had a comment from someone the other day. In fact, Speaker Tim Jones, who's a host of a program right before mine, and he has never really liked you being on the program. And I mean, Tim's an understanding guy, but at the same time, he says, I think John's mellowing. Are you mellowing, or are the issues just not as stringent before?
Oh, I don't think I'm mellowing, but I mean, never hurts to mellow if you do. But I'm pretty much where I always have been. And by the way, if it's over Trump that he's talking about, I have been on your show praising some of the things that Trump has done. He has sealed up the border, where other presidents of both parties, including Trump in his first term, did not seal it up. This time he was determined to do it, and he did it, and I give him great credit for it.
And you also were chastising about the tariffs. You're saying that it's the worst thing. They're not going to be good. But it looks to me like they're working, John.
Oh, I don't think we can. Well, so far it hasn't really hurt.
John, you won't give an inch. I mean, come on.
No, because it's too early. They were only imposed on April 2nd. That's 3 months ago.
Well,
maybe it's 4.
3 months ago,
May,
3 or 4 months
July.
ago, you're saying.
4 months. And then they were delayed. So they were delayed. So we don't really know yet. And I don't really know what the point of them was. It was supposed to drive jobs back to America. That's not really going to happen. It is going to raise prices in the long run.
What about all the
billions?
billions?
There are going to be shortages.
What about all the billions? Yeah. Japan's dropping in on us. And now other countries are. The European Union going to spend something like $750 billion buying energy from us. You don't think that's
good? Well, that's good stuff. No, that's great. That is good. And military purchases are good. That's all good. But what, in the end, tariffs are a tax on the consumer. And that's why I worry about these things. They haven't yet been implemented. A lot of companies are eating the tariffs so far, but they eventually will have to pass them on to the consumer. And most consumers already see an increase in inflation at groceries and things like that. That hasn't stopped yet under Trump. He promised to fix it. I don't blame him for it because the president doesn't control prices directly. It's policies that take a long time to be implemented and take effect that affect the economy. It's not overnight.
Well, you know,
so
I'm
patient about it.
The left continues to say inflation is out of control. You agree with that?
They say it, yeah.
You agree?
No, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with
it,
but they say it. Yeah.
And
but there is still inflation. It's 2.7%, and we need to get it down over time.
Yeah.
And that's statistics. But if you ask people, you ask your callers when they call in, everybody says, oh, my God, prices are going way up. It's anecdotal, but they say it. And as long as they believe it, that's a negative, and it also, they'll cut back on spending because of it.
Where do you think they would get all that negative news that the inflation is bad and the prices are going way out of control? Where do you think they would get that?
Some of it, I mean, here, I just filled up my car. It was $3.29 a gallon.
Oh.
I don't need to be told that it's going up. That's pretty high. It was down to $2.99 a couple months ago. It's summertime. It often goes up. It's gone up.
Do you recall what it was 4 years ago?
Oh, God, it was $5.
Oh, so there's a big difference there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, but there isn't any difference at $3.29 a year ago. It was $3.29 or more. It was the same under Biden as Trump. So it's Trump's job over time to get the perception that he's brought down inflation. He doesn't have it yet, but he's only 6 months in, so we give him some time.
Okay. Now, before we leave the economics, where are you on the Federal Reserve Chairman making a move?
Do not touch him. Leave him alone. You get to replace him in 8 months, according to the law. That's the way to go. I think Trump has realized that. If he messes with the Fed now, the markets will react negatively, and there's no need to.
All right. Now, what about all the other stuff swirling around? Suddenly, we've got every member of the Obama administration, including CIA, FBI, and everything, all being called out and all the evidence being laid out that there was a plot to rewrite his presidential daily briefing to get what he wanted, to put all the onus on Trump on stealing the election and working with the Russians.
Okay. It's all one word: Epstein. Everything that's suddenly coming out of the administration is an attempt by a rather desperate Trump, I might say, to divert attention from Epstein. And he throws everything out there. We're going to prosecute Hillary. We're going to prosecute Kamala. We're reinvestigating this Obama stuff. Believe me, none of this is real. It's to get the discussion off of Epstein.
You do not believe that they had a sit down? It's been documented that they sat down in the Oval Office and Clapper told them this is all a Hillary Clinton paid and bought for Steele dossier. And we know that they were directed, and in their notes state the president wanted us to rewrite that public briefing presidential briefing.
But Larry, so you're talking, I know, but it's irrelevant. That was 10 years ago.
No, I'm not going to take that as irrelevant. 16. That was an effort to overthrow the government. That was an effort to overthrow the government.
They're not. They were the government. They weren't trying to overthrow anything, and that's old news. And this has suddenly cropped up from Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard, who were clearly instructed by the White House. All of you throw everything out there to get the discussion off of Jeffrey Epstein.
All right.
And by the way, the rumor here is the Wall Street Journal is about ready to drop a humdinger of a news story about Trump and Epstein by tomorrow. That's a rumor. I don't know.
All right.
But the first two rattled Trump, and that's why he's suing Rupert Murdoch and the Journal for a measly $10 billion with a B dollars. He is acting like he's afraid of what the Journal is doing on Epstein.
You know, I would say Epstein is old. Not as old as the effort to overthrow Trump's administration and carry out a coup. And I want all the information on Epstein out, too. I do. And if Trump's name is in there, so be it. Put it in context. That's the issue. Just throwing a name up there isn't enough. But, John, how can you continue to walk away and say, no longer interested in an effort to overthrow the president and his supporters by rewriting briefings that we knew were lies?
First of all,
they were lies.
Wait a second. Well, I don't know that. And whatever went on, it's not overthrow the administration. Obama was the administration. Trump was a candidate. He wasn't the president yet.
At both places.
They were digging up information that the Russians were helping the Trump campaign.
That was what they were trying to do. And then he wins the election, and then we're in December, and Obama wants a rewrite to make it clear Russian involvement. He did.
Well, that may be because there was Russian involvement. And we know there's Russian involvement. And ask Marco Rubio, who was chairing the Senate Intelligence Committee, when their report said there was Russian involvement.
Yeah, but the Democrats
That's
ignored
not
it.
new.
Yeah.
And we're talking about it, 9 years afterwards. Why? It's not because they came up with anything new. They're throwing out the same stuff to get us off. And look, I don't care about Epstein either. You don't care. I don't care. But Trump cares. Trump is apoplectic about something inside the Epstein story.
You're suggesting he's involved in more than what he said, correct?
Yes. Oh, there's no doubt. That is not a doubt.
Whoa. No doubt.
And
I cannot throw I
doubt.
cannot throw out a statement that the presidential daily briefing was rewritten under orders of Obama, and everybody's verified it. And you want to make a remark like that and say there's no doubt? Where's your proof?
Well, have you looked at all the videos of Trump hanging out at Mar-a-Lago?
What does that constitute?
With Epstein?
He also threw him out of his place at Mar-a-Lago. Just because you know somebody. Just because you know somebody.
Larry, the way I was brought up, you are judged by the company you keep.
I agree with that.
And if you're hanging out with a pedophile and a pervert for 15 years and you admit he's your best friend, and you're going on flights with them and hanging out, that is not good. That is not a good thing, and it's a bad mark on Trump. It may not be criminal, but a proper person would never hang out with a pervert like that guy. Even after it was known he was doing all this stuff to underage girls, Trump is still hanging out there.
Well, I think we'd have to get in a deeper discussion on that, but I would disagree. But as always,
I think we ought to do this. We ought to resume this conversation.
I agree.
Soon.
I agree.
This blockbuster Wall Street Journal, whatever they've got, is about to come. We've got to talk after it comes out.
All right. John LeBoutillier, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Larry, as always.
All right. Coming up, Florida drivers, you have permission to run over anyone blocking your car.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Andersen, the full-service window and door replacement division of Andersen, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength and durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Baby, I got your number. Oh, and I know that you got mine. You know that I called you. I called too many times. You can call me, baby. You can call me anytime. You got to call me.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
We also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets. You have a right to defend yourself in Florida.
Yeah, that's Governor DeSantis making it very clear. If some of these protests, for whatever they're protesting, and they're violating First Amendment rights and protections once they start assaulting you, impeding your traffic, things of that nature, they lose their First Amendment rights. And he's making it very clear. If you're in an area and they suddenly are surrounding your car, threatening you, you feel threatened, put the gas down and move through them. If you run over some, so be it. Now, of course, use a little discretion if you can, but if you are suddenly surrounded by a mob of people banging and shouting at you, and especially if your kids are in the car, my discretion is, one, I could wave the Glock and maybe make them move away, or two, I will use a gas pedal. But they cannot continue to threaten you in that way. Because in blue cities and blue states, they're fine with that. They won't do anything to break it up. You have to just sit there, even if it's on the highway. And we went through that previously in the St. Louis area, right after Michael Brown case, blocking interstate traffic. If you went out there on any other day with you and a bunch of buddies and you decide to block interstate traffic, your butt would be in jail so fast. But in this case, this was a call for civil justice because they had been denied. I don't care what their complaints are. First Amendment rights are limited. You know that. They know that. But DeSantis has made it clear in the state of Florida, if you feel threatened and there's a mob around your car, do what you need to do to get out of there. Good. Piers Morgan, back about 11 days ago, had Joy Reid on board, and she, of course, is just out of control when it comes to these deportations, deporting people either back to their own country, or if their own country will not take them, drop them off in Uganda or Rwanda or somewhere, anywhere but here. And here's how that discussion went.
Do you know how many people Barack Obama deported in 8 years?
I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, why don't you guess?
I don't know and don't care.
Well, hang on. You don't know and you don't care. You've just given me...
Because it's not the issue. You're
hang
trying
on,
to make the issue the southern border.
Joy. You've just given me... Joy.
The point is,
Joy.
Barack Obama was not dragging women and
let me finish.
nursing babies apart and taking...
Joy. You've just given me...
I'm sure going to tell me it's your main issue.
You've just given me
it's not my main issue. My main issue is that what we're seeing...
I'm trying to finish my sentence. You've just given me a lengthy monologue attacking Donald Trump's aggressive deportation policy. And I've simply said to you, there was a Democrat, a black Democrat, president of the United States for 8 years. I'm simply asking, given that you're obviously all over every detail of the Trump deportation policy, and given you were on the airwaves in America on a daily basis through Obama's tenure, how many people did he deport in 8 years?
I do not know. You'll tell me. I'm sure.
Have a guess.
But it's probably more than 1 million people. I'm quite certain.
Have a
because
guess.
I think each 2 million.
Right, it was 3 million.
Okay. And your point being what?
My point being, are you as shocked by that as you are claiming to be by Trump?
It is not deportations
Many of them were
themselves that
brown.
are shocking. Wait a minute. Can I answer your question?
The majority were brown.
Suddenly, it's not the number. That's not the important. It's who's doing it. Oh, no, I didn't mean to say that. It's the fact that it wasn't a big deal then. It became a big deal when the Democrats were basically encouraging illegals to cross our borders. And during the Trump administration, he also had to step it up. But both Obama and even Bill Clinton prior to him, and Hillary Clinton when she was running, was saying, we have to have our borders. They must be secure. We are a nation of migrants, but we're a nation of laws. You come here legally. And Joy, what do you count, 15 times he called her name? 15 times, Quentin says. He kept saying, Joy, Joy, Joy. I would say, joyless, joyless. The woman is deranged, totally deranged, because she not interested in the facts, said, I don't really know the number of those deported by Obama, and I don't care. Why would you not care? They were deported for the same reasons Trump was deporting. Families, quote, separated, families sent back. You didn't care? Really? Yeah, we'll put that on your tombstone. I didn't care unless it involved Trump. But this is a woman that has made her mark, if you want to call it that, much like a dog going from one corner of the room to the other to mark their territory, by breeding and pushing on racism. And so that's part of her issue with Trump. He's a white guy. Obama's not. So Obama could not do any wrong. You got to be able to call, quote, balls and strikes, but if these guys are just like Joy Reid and the rest of them are just going to wash around in the surf and wait for something that will really excite them, then they're going to deny everything else. Give me another example. She was in a discussion with someone about someone getting an appointment. I didn't have time to get in to find out exactly who or what it was, but she refers to a white person like a mayonnaise sandwich. Listen to this.
Got to be honest and keep it real. This is not the pick that I expected that she would make. It did come down to the final three, as we understand it, and I thought she would go astronaut. Keeping it real, he to me would have been the safest, most conventionally safe pick. White, super white, like mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, right? From a border state, he could have made a strong argument for her.
Again, I have no idea really what she was. I didn't bother getting into it. I wonder if she's aware that an outspoken left-wing NASCAR driver, Bubba Wallace, made history as the first black driver to win the Brickyard 400 at the Indy Motor Speedway on Sunday. Give the man credit. He did not win because of his color nor his politics. He won because he ran better than the others. That's his first win since 2022. He's had a 100-race winless streak, but this time he won. He did not try to turn it into a political platform. He just wanted to be a racer. That's what he was doing. Now, if I told you a guy named Bubba Wallace won, you're thinking, if you're Joy Reid, oh, another white guy won, right? Everybody in the South named Bubba. they're all white. Not true, obviously. The left is so contorted right now on how they're going to get back on track. They cannot answer even simple questions. Perfect example here. Hakeem Jeffries being pressed on what can be done to improve the economy. How do you guys see that you're going to be able to do this and how you're going to get around it? Hakeem Jeffries, I think he might have been number 16 in my playlist, but the bottom line is he could not come up with an answer. He could not come up with an answer, so he fumbles around, and when he finishes, you're thinking, was he talking or was that a flashback to, what's her name who just left the White House? I mean, this is word salad.
What can Democrats offer to, let's call it the midterms, say, here's what we can do to lower your grocery prices?
We need an all-hands-on-deck effort to ensure that we're putting money back into the pockets of the American people, using the tax code to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, as opposed to enacting massive tax breaks for billionaire Republican donors. We need to make sure that the supply is sufficient enough to meet the demand that exists, because if the demand is too high and the supply of goods doesn't actually meet where the market equilibrium is at,
wow,
that presents challenges as it relates to everyday Americans. We need to make sure that this country walks away from the reckless Trump tariffs.
He did not answer the question, but he threw a lot of words in there, a lot of word salad. Talk about economy, we need to do this, do that, but he did not come up with anything. I was looking at a quote earlier from Pete Buttigieg. He's trying to get in early. He's trying early to test the waters. See, I could be a candidate. You guys need help. I could be the one that would come to the forefront. I don't think he will be. I mean, if they want to make that decision, great, go for it. But Buttigieg is among those also saying, well, we need to make some changes, and I would be the change. Not really. The left attack plan is not based on what they can do for Americans, but what the Trump administration is and they think will be doing to destroy your lives. All the evidence shows the opposite. Progressives just will not give up their rally cry. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open, Napoli Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
There are consequences to fighting and taking away people's health care. There are consequences to voting against a living wage. There are consequences to ripping up law-abiding, dutiful, undocumented people from their country. There are consequences. There are consequences for fighting against LGBT rights. There are consequences for taking away our right to choose.
There are consequences. How about this for a consequence? The owner of a Florida telecommunications company is going to spend the next 5 years in prison, and his business must pay a major fine because they were part of the Obama phone scam. Remember that? They were talking about how women, I should say that all folks could have a phone, a lifeline phone. They could be called on if the Obama phone. Some telecommunication companies embraced the terms. The government did not. So they were all this time using in Cleveland and elsewhere, you got to get the Obama phone, keep Obama president. He'll give us a phone. He'll give us more. Well, it turned out that they were all committing wire fraud and stealing federal funds under that Lifeline program. There was a value to it for people who might need phone contact. They could not afford a wireless phone if they need it for health and so forth. But here they come again, the grifters. And now this guy is going to spend 5 years in prison for what they were doing. And here's someone else who is regretting what she did. School board chair for a county in Florida celebrated the death of famed wrestler Hulk Hogan because he supported Donald Trump. She said, I just saw that he died. I didn't know. Good. One less MAGA in the world. Of course, she got a lot of flashback and now says, a few days ago I made a cruel and flippant comment. I deeply regret doing that. I have since removed it. I want to make it clear that I never have and never will wish harm on anyone. Oh, yes, you have. You have, and you did. And you put it out there for all your social media to see. Hulk Hogan died. He was a MAGA supporter, so there's one less MAGA supporter. I'm joyful. These people cannot stand the heat once it is applied to them. Coming up, more on what we're going to do to help you, and also an abortion clinic shutting down. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcasts of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40, 314-644-0885, EsquireSportsMedicine.com, EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as Support Dogs for Our Brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check Vincent'sJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Vincent'sJewelers.com. Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545, 636-689-0545, or visit priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
You're known as a tough negotiator and deal maker. What is in front and fair, and what is in front of us?
That's less important.
If we are successful, I think it would be the biggest deal each of us has ever struck. So I'm very much looking forward.
Ever struck by anybody? That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Right now we have that honor goes to Japan. We just struck a deal with Japan, as you know. And we're very close to a deal with China. We really sort of made a deal with China, but we'll see how that goes. And we have numerous other deals. And mostly I'm just going to charge tariffs. And, you know, it's not a deal per se, but people are going to pay tariffs. And we're doing them at the low end, not the high end, because we don't want to hurt anybody. And pretty well, but you and I both figured this is really the biggest trading partnership in the world. So we should give it a shot, right?
Yeah. Very much looking forward to that.
Oh, thank you very much. I do too.
There you have it, another trade deal, another Trump trade deal with the U.S. and in this case with the European Union. A lot of us are saying there's no chance he'll ever get the European Union to come together. Well, they just made the U.S. now its largest trading partner. In 2024, the U.S. accounted for 20% plus of EU good exports, China being the second largest trading partner. That's how big it was. The EU also engages in significant trade with the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Turkey. Recently, the U.S. and EU reached a preliminary trade agreement, and now they finally got a signed deal off. It's done. China, we're still working on that. We have one with the UK. We got one with Switzerland. We've got others coming together. At the same time, Trump continues to announce these trade deals, most of them falling around the 15%. I'm looking the way how the leftist media will want you to hear and read the story. Trump's EU deal averts disaster, but few are cheering. Yep, look for the negative. The U.S. and the European Union avoided the worst-case scenario, a damaging all-out trade war between allies that threatened to raise prices on a number of goods and slow two of the world's largest economies. The framework delivered a sense of relief for both sides, but few are cheering the arrangement itself. You can't have it both ways. You're either happy with the deal or you're not. This is like going to buy a car. If you go in there and you buy a car and you get a great deal, good for you. I go in and buy the same car, and I find out later in talking to you, I paid $900 more than you did for the exact same car. But when I left the dealership, I was happy, or I wouldn't have taken the car and gone. Now I'm upset because you got yours cheaper. Well, negotiating? Or maybe they just didn't like Larry Connors USA. I don't know. But the real story is when you have a trade deal, when you have these agreements, and when you're selling and buying goods, you find a middle spot that satisfies everyone to the best you can. Otherwise, no deal. I remember car dealers I used to go into, and I would always be talking to one guy, and he kept asking, well, what do you want to pay? What do you want to pay? I said, I'm not here to dicker around. I'm not going to dicker with you all day long. I'm just going to give you a number, and you let me know you're going to or not. And I gave him a number. I said, well, let me take it back and talk to the bosses. I said, if you're not the one to make that decision, then I need to be talking to them. I do remember one time after several passes at this, the guy came back and said, well, what do you want? What do you want? I said, I want to pay nothing. Oh, we can't do that. I said, well, you asked what I wanted. That's what I wanted. Didn't happen. And I wouldn't expect it to. Welcome to hour number 2, Larry Connors USA. Here we are, July 28, 2025, and reminding you, when we're on the air, we are streaming. You can watch the program. You go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors USA, Facebook, or Rumble. And everything goes up later as podcast, video and audio, at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. And with Larry Connors USA, every time, every hour, you're going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. You will leave each hour with more knowledge than you had when we began. Perfect example coming up in our next segment. The largest abortion clinic in the Western Hemisphere is closing. Yeah, I want to applaud and say, great, but I want you to have the full details coming up in our next segment. In the meantime, the pressure continues as to Jeffrey Epstein stories and learning more about that, but also the effort, to say the least, the effort to overthrow President Trump, to keep him from getting into office, and then when he was in office, to overthrow him. I had a kind of a aggravated, maybe I need to look for a little less violent word, discussion with John LeBoutillier in the previous hour over this. John is of the opinion Trump wants the Epstein case to just go away, that's more bothersome to him, so he's wanting everyone to focus on the effort to overthrow his government when he came in. I do not buy that, and John and I came to a distinct difference of opinion. If you missed it, I strongly encourage you to go back and pull it up. And I'm going to have him on again in a couple of days because he indicated the Wall Street Journal is coming up with a blockbuster report dealing with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. We'll see. But what we do have in front of us is that we know the Obama administration was doing everything it could to destroy Trump before he got into office and then once he was elected even. We're talking about in December. He's already elected. He will be sworn in that January, and they're now still trying to come up with something that they can destroy him and basically overthrow his administration. That is a coup. Fox News analyst Jonathan Turley.
It was earlier in 2016 that John Brennan briefed President Obama to say that Hillary Clinton was planning to hit Trump with a Russian collusion conspiracy theory. So he knew that. So did Obama. And then at the end of the term, right before Trump comes in, they rushed this new assessment, which essentially flipped the earlier assessment and seeded the basis for the Russian investigation. And it worked. But now you've great vulnerability for people like Brennan. What we learned last week does not seem to conform with what he said to Congress. And that's going to raise serious issues if he's called back before Congress, and they're going to ask him the same questions.
They're going to ask the same question. Will he take the fifth, or will he stick to his previous story? Or will he try to change it and saying, looking back over it, I realized I left some things out. Take the cheap way out. Attorney Brad Edwards, by the way, speaking of the Epstein case, he represented 70 Epstein victims. He spent a decade dealing with the Epstein story. Attorney Brad Edwards in 2018 said, here's the real record on Trump and Epstein.
All the money that's raised will go directly to people who need help in the short term and for the long term.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
And that was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that.
Yeah, I think we've all heard that. And Trump has said, I've never even been to the island. We've heard that as well. Now, this phone interview with the attorney Brad Edwards was not under oath, so I will concede Trump, what he said, did not have to be held up and tested. So you had these two stories that continue to circle our globe right now, one being the Epstein story and the other being the Russian collusion fabrication as created by the Obama White House. But again, CIA Director Ratcliffe said the FBI was, again, one of those primarily involved.
Part of this was a Hillary Clinton plan, but part of it was an FBI plan to be an accelerant to that fake Steele dossier, to those fake Russia collusion claims by pouring oil on the fire, by amplifying the lie and burying the truth of what Hillary Clinton was up to. And you're right, Maria. John Brennan testified to John Durham in August of 2020. He also testified to the House Oversight Committee in 2022. Hillary Clinton testified before John Durham under oath in 2022. James Comey testified before the Senate Committee in September 2020. All of that's within the last 5 years. And much of that testimony is, frankly, completely inconsistent with what our underlying intelligence that is about to be declassified in the Durham Annex, what that reflects.
And again, according to that 46-page report that was part of the House Intel Committee Investigation Select Committee, that 46-page report revealed how, after the election, Brennan ordered the publication of 3 substandard intel reports, which, along with the Steele dossier, quote, became foundational sources for the intelligence community judgment that Putin preferred Trump over Clinton. And from there, it was off to the races. They were trying to unseat Trump even as he was taking the oath of office. And then, thank goodness, he won this last time around, or we wouldn't know any of this. Biggest war games in history are underway right now in the Indo-Pacific.
Remaining vigilant and prepared for war. The largest bilateral military exercise ever conducted between the United States and Australia, Operation Talisman Sabre, is now underway down under. The goal of the 35,000 participants from 19 nations is to uphold a free and open Indo-Pacific. Some observers view the exercise as a response to the Chinese naval buildup and aggression in the South China Sea.
Now, by that point, we do not have a deal with China yet, a trade deal that apparently seems locked down. And Trump has also made it clear to Russia that he is telling them, you no longer have the time we gave you. We want you to have a deal to shut down the war with Ukraine within 10 to 12 days. And all of this effort to put all these troops and forces together, bringing all of these countries together, is mainly it's a show of force. And you could say it's maybe preparation for war, but you actually hope it serves a purpose to avoid war. Marine Colonel Dunn.
We're not doing this to prepare just for war, right? We're doing this to prepare for deterrence, to prepare for peace, as well as to prepare for operating with our other teammates, our allies, in a multi-nation operation / exercise. We do these exercises routinely, not on this scale. And the reason why we do them is simply to bring all of these forces together so that we learn and we train and we operate just like we are if we go to war. It should be seen more as in my mind, right, I'm hopeful, as a precursor to peace, because when our adversaries see how easily we bring together all these nations, this many folks, and we operate in a extended exercise, they should see that we could quickly transmit that into combat if necessary.
And the key point about that is we've got 19 different nations being involved, and that includes China and Australia. And the message to China should be this alliance can be engaged quickly if we need to, and all 19 nations can be counted on, supposedly, to respond if China invades Taiwan. And while this is underway, as I said, we've got top U.S. and Chinese officials still trying to draft out a trade agreement. They're meeting in Sweden this week. They have a deadline that's pushing a little harder on them. It's set to be August 12th. Yes, for those of you say, oh, it'll probably be extended again. It might well be. Right now, Trump has struck agreements with both the European Union and Japan for a 15% tariff on exports to the U.S. Now, John LeBoutillier and those others that are against tariffs, and I'm not for tariffs as a commonplace, he says the consumer ends up paying for them. That's true of everything. You have to understand that. Whatever they had to spend to get their product out of the ground, be it fossil fuel or plants, you're going to have to help pay for the cost. That's built into it. I'm looking at a CNN NNN report saying, oh, grocery stores will be closing everywhere. Really? You might change as to what brand or store you use if they're not pulling back on some of the additional charges, if they're not eating some of it. And there's a thin margin when it comes to groceries, but they can still do it. And that's true of every commodity. It's a game. Get out your Monopoly board, see if you can get in control. In this case, you're not going to be able to get in control, but you can decide where you're going to buy and where you're going to sell. Coming up, the largest abortion clinic in the Western Hemisphere is closing. Lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930. 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Another day must be another roofer in town. And John Beal and I were talking. He said, you know, every time you turn around, there's a new roofing company. Many of them have no idea what they're doing, and the statistics show that many will be out of business within 2 to 5 years. Who are you going to call to help you then? You need to remember only one name, John Beal. John Beal Roofing. You have a problem, he can take care of it. And we'll be here for you. John Beal Roofing. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out OakStreetInnandLounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
I've been holding out so long. I've been sleeping all alone. Lord, I miss you. I've been hanging on the phone. I've been sleeping all alone. I won't kiss you.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. For those who are in favor of life and saving babies and protecting them from abortions, you're going to love this story. We have a major, in fact, the largest abortion facility in the Western Hemisphere being closed. And one of those who has been fighting it from day one with prayer and showing up outside and doing more than that is Shawn Carney, founder and president of 40 Days for Life. Welcome, Shawn. Glad to have you on board.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
And you were, and I say you were among those out there praying daily at this site for them to shutter their doors. Your prayers got answered.
No, they absolutely did. And a lot of other selfless folks were out there. We were there in the beginning doing the boycotts of the contractors that were working on that Planned Parenthood whenever they went in under a different name and bought what was a huge bank and then remodeled it. And so it's been a long time coming. At one point, they were doing 10,000 abortions a year. They were doing abortions up to 24 weeks, and it just seemed like this Goliath that was never going to go away. And thank God it did. This is a tremendous, tremendous victory. Not just for 40 Days for Life, but the entire pro-life movement.
You identified this as a 78,000 square foot clinic, the largest abortion facility in the Western Hemisphere.
Correct. And, they went in there, they built this massive, remodeled this massive bank building, started doing abortions. And it just seemed like a place that was never going to close. We had our wonderful friends at the Houston Coalition for Life had a bus outside, and we're doing ultrasounds, and we had 40 Days for Life outside, but it just seemed to not really matter. But over time, their abortion numbers started to go down. And then, of course, now that they can't do abortions, and especially since they're defunded, they're no longer open. And that's because Planned Parenthood doesn't offer legit medical health care. They offer abortion.
I'm glad you point that out because, as I say, we're here for the women's health care. Well, that does include a woman if they're going to be a woman, if they're ever born. But yeah, they say we do all these, they don't do mammograms generally. They don't do a lot of other stuff. Their primary function has been abortions. And if they're not getting that and not getting, and of course, we want to stress, they don't get federal dollars for the actual abortion, but it helps pay rent, utilities, and staff.
Yeah, the whole thing was a scam, and they just got more and more tax dollars over time. And thank God they got defunded. And, if they, were so in high demand of these other services, they wouldn't be closing. And they don't do mammograms. They are an abortion business. You can't do abortions in Texas, so they're going away. And that makes perfect sense. But they can't sell us that they're some kind of healthcare provider, because they're not. Healthcare providers don't close in Houston. It's the medical capital of the South. But they're not one, and so they're closing.
Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast is the official name, running 6 clinics in the Houston area, 2 in Louisiana, and they're closing, they say, by September 30.
Yeah, music to my ears. It's great news, and I think that there's going to be more to come. Also, Planned Parenthood closed 4 facilities in the state of California, including Santa Cruz, where we had a 40 Days for Life for many, many years. Santa Cruz makes San Francisco look like Omaha, Nebraska politically. It is far, far left, and yet they weren't able to keep that open. So we see a lot of good news coming, and what's positive is that 80% of the abortion pills are done through brick and mortar still. And so that is the driving force. So you hurt the chemical abortions and the surgical abortions when these facilities close.
Well, that was my next point. I mean, fewer might be going for the physical abortion. I just want the abortion pill. But again, if that's not really regulated and they're available for possible treatment, those young women are taking a real risk with their own lives.
They are taking a risk, and there's a lot of myths about abortion pills. Most people think they're being shipped everywhere like Skittles. That's not the case. Many states have laws against the abortion pills. And also, again, 80% of the abortion pills are distributed through these brick and mortar facilities. And so not only is it illegal in a lot of states to ship them in or out, but that in the states where it is legal, women are still going to brick and mortar. So these closures are very, very significant.
You've got the Manhattan Health Center building that they're selling that property for something like $40 million. They're getting out all the way around.
$39 million. They're selling it. They got a lot of flack from pro-abortion groups for closing it. But again, it was a bottom line business that's literally on Margaret Sanger Way, the racist founder of Planned Parenthood. Right. And that was their flagship facility. So they have closed Manhattan, and they've closed their largest facility in the world in Houston. It's a good sign.
Yeah, and they're citing rising costs, staffing shortages, lower reimbursement rates. Their storyline pretty much goes along with why CBS is canceling Colbert. Not because he's a leftist, but because you can't make money with that damn thing to begin with.
Yeah, it's well put. It's very well put because, rising costs. What does that mean? I mean, aren't women clamoring for abortions because the evil Supreme Court overturned Roe and the demand would be at an all-time high in these sanctuary abortion states like New York? It was all BS. And if they're closing Manhattan, they've closed 27 abortion facilities so far this year, Planned Parenthood. Half of those are in blue states. So the demand is lowering.
How many abortions do you think ran through those clinics?
Oh, mercy. The Manhattan, over 250,000 throughout its life of being open.
It's just terrifying, it stops you in your tracks. 250,000 lives that never had a chance to live.
That would be my estimate for as long as they've been open in their yearly volume.
So with the blue states still trying to say, we'll support you and keep you going, how do you see them trying to play that out?
I think that they're going to just try to get desperate and try to raise money. One of the things, you can call it divine intervention, but one of the problems Planned Parenthood has right now is bad leadership. Their CEO is not effective. That's just a fact. And you've seen since just deer in the headlights, since Roe was overturned, now they're closing abortion facilities left and right. They've got all sorts of HR issues and union issues with their employees. And then they got defunded. So their CEO, Alexis McGill Johnson, has not done a good job. I actually expect her to be fired at some point. And they they need to raise money off of this. If you're on their board, that's what they should be doing, and they're not doing that. They lost 78,000 individual donors last year. Unbelievable. So their donor base isn't supporting them. The government's now not supporting them, and the market is not supporting them.
Sounds like if you're the captain on the bridge of the Titanic and there's nothing available.
Yeah. I mean, it's just they are in very, very bad shape, which is so awesome because 10 years ago they were just in amazing shape. 10 years ago the Supreme Court invented gay marriage. Obama was president. Hillary was going to be the next president. And they were getting a record number of tax dollars, and they had a great leader, unfortunately for us, in Cecile Richards, and they looked like they were unstoppable. And boy, what a decade, a difference a decade can make.
And the other thing to keep in mind, the location for many of these abortion clinics, especially across the South and elsewhere, are catering to the poor, the minority groups that they want to have protected, but they're basically... we're helping them kill off more minorities from being born.
Oh, there's no doubt. And that's not us accusing them of that. They'll tell you. They'll say this is here for the poor Black and Latino women so that they can get health care. They certainly talk down to them. It's tragic, particularly for the Black community, because Blacks make up 12% of the U.S. population, but nearly 40% of all abortions. So they're being exterminated by the abortion industry, and no one seems to care. And so, that is really one of the unspoken things of Planned Parenthood and abortion in general is it started with eugenics. The easiest way to get rid of a group of people is to abort them, whether they're disabled, whether they're a minority, whatever your reason is. Abortion is very, very effective. And, this is one of the blessings of all of these abortion facilities closing, because we do know that distance is a deterrent. And so if you don't have relatively close access to it, you won't travel. Some women have traveled, but their estimates of all the women that would travel when Roe fell were all those failed. They were not even close to being accurate.
When I say going in parallel with this, in our last 30 seconds, I see, well, it's outside some of what you do in many ways. Transgender clinics and surgeries and puberty blockers are all being shut down across the nation by universities and so forth.
It's great. I think we're starting to actually follow the science that unborn children are human, and that if you're born a boy, you're a boy. And we're getting back to basics.
And God. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
We'll do it again. Shawn Carney, founder and president of 40 Days for Life. It's great news. A lot of babies are going to be saved. And then you got Elizabeth Warren worried that your children's teeth might decay.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545, 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545, 689-0545, or go direct PRIglobal.ai, PRIglobal.ai. Replacing your windows and doors? Do not settle for ordinary. Go extraordinary. Renewal by Andersen, the full-service window and door replacement division of Andersen, a name trusted for more than 120 years. Their exclusive FiberX material combines the strength and durability of wood with low-maintenance features of vinyl. You get windows and doors twice as strong as vinyl, energy efficient, built to last. For a limited time, get 25% off every window, patio door, or entry door. No payments for 18 months, zero interest. This is their best new client discount. Dial pound 250, say the keyword windows, or visit rbastl.com. Pound 250, keyword windows, rbastl.com. Get your free estimate. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
Not a yes, sir, not a follower. Fit the box, fit the mold, have a seat in the foyer. Take a number. I was lightning before the thunder. Thunder, 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 thunder.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Right now, millions of Americans are sitting down for dinner with their kids. And I hope we just think for a minute about what RFK Jr.'s plans would mean for them. Will their teeth decay because Kennedy took fluoride out of the water based on some conspiracy theory? Will they have to worry about getting measles at school because Kennedy is spreading anti-vax conspiracies on government letterhead? Will parents have to risk their kids getting polio and maybe dying by sending them to daycare because Kennedy used his HHS rules to open the door to a flood of bogus lawsuits that forced manufacturers to pull the vaccines?
I'm just sitting here. I'm frightened to continue. There you have it. Senator Elizabeth Warren saying your kids' teeth are going to decay because we don't have fluoride in our water anymore, and it's taken out because RFK Jr. is destroying America by using his power. The issue about fluoride in water, when it first surfaced back in the late 40s, I believe, 50s, where it originally began, it was thought it could help lower cavities. And in fact, it was certainly believed that it was. So they started putting it into various states, some cities, but not everywhere. And part of it was because not everyone didn't want it. They thought it was something that would be bad for you. When they started putting fluoride into the water, you had many coming forward and saying it's a poison. The government's trying to kill you by water that you're going to be getting. Well, nowadays, and it has been since they first started, showing that it does help prevent tooth decay, but we've got 60 to 90% of the children worldwide that end up having tooth decay. But if they have good water, that helps from baby teeth up to permanent teeth. We were the first country to engage in water fluoridation. Globally, 5% of the people get fluoridated water. The idea, again, was to prevent tooth decay. If you have children and you go to pay a dentist, dental care, it's going to be some money. And, of course, you want your child in good health. But what has happened is that now so much of the toothpaste contains fluoride, it's been decided that maybe we don't really need it in the water. There are actually some bottled waters that contain fluoride, although they may or may not state it. But here you have Pocahontas Warren saying, what are they going to do next to hurt you and your family? Oh, yeah, the measles. Stopping measles. No demand that the measles vaccine be included. And others still to come. If you have children, you obviously are worried about it. And yes, they can be deadly, but generally they're not. Same thing with mumps, things of that nature. We often would end up in the past have a party. Parents would put all the kids together. One of them had mumps or the measles, get them all together in one nightly stay over. Then everybody's infected. Then they're over it. But obviously you have to take greater concern with kids who might be a risk. Nothing wrong with that. You're watching out for your kids. We're going to continue to hear from the left, looking for anything they can say that will frighten you. And here is one thing that might be even more frightening to you. This is from The Hill, written by, let me get the author again because there's a reason I want to state it, make sure I've got it right. Yep, I had it right. Douglas Shawn, an opinion contributor. Douglas Shawn used to be on a TV program sparring with John LeBoutillier. Doug is left of John considerably. Or maybe I should say John LeBoutillier is right of Shawn. But it was a good program. I regret that they canceled it. But Doug Shawn is now an opinion contributor for The Hill. And he begins his piece by saying, the headline anyway, President Ocasio-Cortez. How does that sound to you? President Ocasio-Cortez is not as far of a reach as it once was. Yeah, now I've got your attention. He says it's a move that surprised many on both sides of the political aisle when the progressive Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez voted with an overwhelming majority of House Democrats and Republicans to support funding for the Israeli Iron Dome system. And he adds that not only did her vote make a clear break with other members of the progressive squad, they all voted against it. More importantly, it positioned her closer to the Democrat mainstream at a time when they're trying to come up with a candidate for Senate, potentially president. Again, Douglas Shawn is of the opinion this vote positions her against Chuck Schumer in New York. He is currently trailing her in a poll conducted by Politico. Schumer is up for re-election. And in polls taken as to would you take Schumer or Ocasio-Cortez, she's just, let me get the numbers here, that he trails her by 19 points, according to Politico, 55% to 36%. Not good for Chucky. This is not the first time she's broken from the progressive ring to strengthen her position for a higher legislative position. In 2021, in the wake of the war between Israel and Gaza, she lobbied against Iron Dome funding, only to turn around and reverse course and vote present. At the time, MSNBC called her actions, quote, a bid, quote, to preserve the possibility of challenging Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. And that's where she's going. And he points out that much like that vote, she's maintaining her image as a critic of Israel, but one who recognizes the right for Israel to exist and self-defense. That is not what you get from the far left of the squad, Omar and others. She's basically walking a very narrow definition of self-defense. But it does make her closer to the wider Democrat Party. And especially when you look at who they are now lifting up for the left. Mamdani in New York. If you put Mamdani on the same scale, the opposite side of the scale, as AOC, which do you think would prove to be heavier, more gravitas, more ability, more acceptance? Now, we're not going to see them face off against each other, but the factions behind them are what will be in play. He has said Israel should not exist as a Jewish state. If it's not a Jewish state, it doesn't exist at all. But he's trying, again, a fine line threading the needle. He has expressed support for the anti-Israeli boycott, divest, and sanctions movements. And he has taken a decisively one-sided view to the October 7 attacks as well as the war that's followed. Mamdani has locked himself down as, I can be for Israel, but not as a state, which means you can't be for them. AOC has said, I believe in their right to be a state and self-defense, but the definition of self-defense takes a new meaning. These Democrats are in a real mess at this point. They are basically fighting over what toys are left in the crib, and there are not many, and not one of them is going to give them anything to eat and or maybe help crawl out of the crib. So they're going to be in there for a while. My heart is breaking. Speaking about the threat by Hamas and those who want to see Israel destroyed, there was another Islamist threat on a jet plane. Now imagine you're on board and the guy stands up and just starts shouting.
Going to bomb the plane. Dead to America, dead to Trump. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar. Oh my God. You got to sit down. Don't move.
And he did sit down and shut up. But that's going to make everyone on board be a little concerned, obviously. I've got 3 recent incidents that have happened like that. There was a United Airlines flight forced to return to Dulles after a passenger started screaming jihad, acting violently, requiring other passengers to subdue him. I believe it was from that particular case. Then there was a flight from Luton to Glasgow disrupted by a man who allegedly shouted, "Death to America, death to Trump, Allahu Akbar." And when they landed, he was arrested. No additional word on if they found anything of real value, but obviously what he was doing was not just a disturbance, but a violation. Another incident involving a passenger on a flight from Australia to Malaysia who threatened to blow the plane up while ranting about being a slave to Allah. That flight went back to Sydney, and that guy was also arrested. In each of these cases, if they involve U.S. flights, the FBI has to look at the facts, motives, any potential security threats involved. They even acknowledge in some cases loud religious expressions might be misunderstood, misinterpreted, leading to heightened tensions. That's kind of a catch-all, and yet it has some value. If someone who is afraid of flying anyway is on the flight and suddenly stands up and starts saying, God help me, God help us, I praise Jesus, and goes on and on, a lot of folks around them, even if they're Christian, are going to be a little concerned. What's going to happen next? What does this person know that I don't know and we need to know? It may turn out to be nothing. It's their own paranoia, and they're crying out in their faith. It's still a disturbance, and disrupting a flight remains a serious offense. It can have criminal charges, which would include fines and imprisonment. But you never know what's going to happen. There was another case that mobile phone footage was showing a guy saying, I woke up and a Muslim man was shouting in my face, Allahu Akbar. He said, scared the daylights out of me. I thought, is he getting ready to push a button, trigger a device on him or on board the plane? A lot of them are just talking, making noise, but it is amazing how far our air travel has gone to the extent that people are allowed to get away with stuff on board a plane. You want to go fly somewhere this summer? I probably will. I don't want you to worry about it, but I mean, you need to be aware. You need to be aware of people around you. And it's always a matter of, if you see something, report something. Maybe nothing, but don't let it go unreported. As always, thanks for listening. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.